Pete Dougherty here live from Lambeau Field, where the Packers have finally gotten their first win of the 2022 season. We say finally like it's been forever. It's only week 2, but a 27-10.
Let's check the score
Yeah,
27-10.
27-10. I just made those numbers up. Win over the Chicago Bears. Got back on the right track, not only in the win column, Pete, but this is the sort of offense and defense we expected to see from these Packers this year.
Yeah, the just feeding the running backs. They started with the run. They stuck with it. There were, they've thrown it to the backfield. A lot of play action passing. This is more like what you expected it to look like. The test, or things get a lot tougher next week, right?
Right.
Down to Tampa Bay. And it's a long season. There's numerous ups and downs. But after the laying a huge egg last week, they lost this one, then you're going into Tampa, you lose that, you're 0-3. That's a pretty big hole. Now you could climb out of it, but that's some tough sledding. So this was important, just for pragmatic reasons for the Packers to win this game. They lose next week. There's still only one game under 500, 14 games to play. Not that big a deal.
As you said, they started with the run. They stuck with the run. I know you have the final box score there. What was Aaron Jones' final numbers? Because I imagine it was off the charts. I think 8 touches or
15 rushes for 132 yards. So that's an 8.8 average, and 3 catches for 38. So that's 160 on 18 touches total yards.
That's math I don't want to do at 11:30 at night, basically. Yeah, that was exactly what they needed. They talked all week, Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers. In fact, pretty much this whole offense talked about getting back to the running game. So, I mean, Chicago knew what they were going to do, and they just still ran it right down their throat. Actually, let me rephrase that. They ran it right down their throat with A.J. Dillon a few times. They moved Aaron Jones all over the field. Is that sort of how you need to see him implemented into this offense for it to really click?
And he's always done things like that, but I think we're going to see more of it now. I counted up the snaps that they were on the field together. I had to do some writing in the fourth quarter, so I might have missed a play or two there, but I had them for at least 9 snaps on the field together. I think last year the total was like 28 for the season, and they each missed a game or two. So that's, 9 in a game, that's a lot. And it's probably what we're going to see. And I did ask Aaron Rodgers, your teams know you're going to want to feed these guys. This is going to be on tape. What's the counter? And his basic answer was, they're just scratching the surface of all the different packages and things that they can run off of what these guys do. So just because teams know it's coming doesn't mean they'll know how it's coming exactly in the Packers' mind, and they're still going to be able to feed these guys the ball. That was the sense you got, and they have to. They're their best guys.
On our Friday preview podcast, the Green 19 preview podcast before this game, I made the joke about, you run the ball to open up the pass. That's just the first basic rule of offense. And Spoon and Ryan kind of corrected me, and they said, not in Green Bay. You've had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. That's a novel concept for the Green Bay Packers. But they've had to do it this season. They did it tonight. I mean, you have the final passing numbers there as well, or receiving numbers.
Yeah.
234 yards. And how many guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys caught a pass, really spread it around. We saw Allen Lazard return. He had a big touchdown on the night. Sammy Watkins had a huge night. Randall Cobb coming up clutch, as he always seems to do when the moment calls for it. So for as much as we focus on what Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon were doing tonight that allowed this passing game to open, how big are these 3 guys going to continue to be, Sammy, Lazard, and Cobb?
Yeah, my suspicion is still, as the season goes on, I have to think Cobb's role will be less and less, as the rookies develop. And he's an older guy and a smaller guy. Injuries could be a factor there. So, we'll see a lot of evolution in the offense. Yeah, so I feel like we're at Met Stadium.
I feel like I should be landing planes here.
Yeah. I wonder if that's the Bears going home. Maybe it is. I bet it is, because the airport's not far from here. And it's going to look. I think it's going to look a lot like this for the rest of the season. It's like Aaron Rodgers said in the press conference. He goes, "Well, the days of one guy getting 15 targets and the next guy getting 5, those days are gone. And at least for this year, they are definitely long gone."
Stephen Willer asked, what did you think of the wide receivers' performance? That kind of sums it up. But something I wanted to add was in the locker room. Sammy Watkins mentioned this is the most he's blocked in a long time. He said, as a receiver in this offense, you have to block. He said, and he gave a lot of credit to Allen Lazard because he said Allen Lazard really showed him how important it is to block in this offense and keeps him encouraged between every play to go block his butt off for the next play. And he sprung a couple of these runs tonight. So, I mean, are we kind of seeing all of the pieces click together here now?
That's funny that he would that Sammy Watkins would say that. I wonder. I'd like to give him some truth serum on that because he did play for the Rams, right? They run the same offense.
Yeah.
So blocking is that was he. I think didn't he play for the Rams for a year? Didn't he play for when LaFleur was there?
He played for the Ravens last year. He played for the Chiefs the 2 years before that. Did he have a year with the Rams between the Bills and the Chiefs?
I thought he had a year with LaFleur. If I'm wrong there, then my apologies to Sammy. But on all the teams that I've covered, they've talked about receivers needing to block. But it does seem like the Shanahan system means it even more than others. But I'm sure there's a lot of teams out there. If you're a receiver, you got to block. But it is a huge part of anybody who runs the Shanahan system.
On the flip side of the ball, the defense gave up a drive on the Bears' first drive, gave up 71 yards and a touchdown. After that 71-yard drive, though, Pete, I think we were doing the math in the press box. For the rest of the first half, if you looked at the net yards, the Bears had a total of 3 yards. They didn't get a first down until late in the third quarter, and then, of course, made a little bit of a push. But we asked Jair Alexander, what was working tonight that wasn't working last week. He credited it to communication, to being able to play a little bit more sticky, and said that they need to tighten up their run defense for sure, but that everything was working on the edges.
Yeah, they that stretch in the first half after the first touchdown drive, that looked a lot more like what we saw in practice in training camp. So people who were wondering, why is everybody saying how good this defense is and the way they played last week and then giving up that touchdown the first possession, that was more like what we saw. But they did, you're right, they gave up a lot on the ground in the second half when the Bears came back into the game. And the test, it gets a lot tougher. I mean, I didn't see Justin Jefferson out there tonight, right? So, or Dalvin Cook. So, life gets a lot tougher starting next week at Tampa.
Something that might work in their favor, though, I'm not sure if you saw this, and a couple of comments from fans in here who have been paying attention to the news while we've been in the press box, that Mike Evans might be suspended next week. Did you see the fight he got into today?
I did, and I did see a story speculating that he might, and that would be huge because that is a big, talented player, and that's a big weapon for Brady. So that would be a big help to the Packers if he does get suspended.
Yeah, that would definitely be huge. But then, as Jair said, they also have Leonard Fournette to prepare for next week, so have to shore up that run defense. But they've done a little bit at a time. Started with the pass defense tonight. When the interception that Jair had right there towards the end of the fourth quarter, I asked him, I said, when you saw that they were finally throwing your way, because Justin Fields didn't really throw Jair's way much tonight, I said, were you just kind of licking your chops? And he said, I was just thinking, finally he's throwing one my way, and I got to go get it. And he did.
You could see it coming, on TV you probably can't, but when you're in the press box, you can see the whole field. And as soon as that ball was released, you could see Alexander start to undercut the receiver and really accelerate. So that ball is just not all that far out of Fields' hands, and you're going, oh, this is a pick. Yep. And he stepped right in front of it. Yeah, Fields only threw 11 passes, so he didn't throw much at anybody.
That's a very fair point. And Jair and Rasul and even Eric Stokes had some big tackles in the run game as well, so a lot more physical tonight. There was something else Jair said that was so funny, and now I'm trying to remember what it was. Something about that interception, and now I can't. Oh, not funny, significant, just because it was talked so much about this week. I asked him, I feel obligated to ask, was that interception, did that come off man coverage? And he said, yes, it did. He said, I drug him the whole time. That's what should happen. So take that for what you will. Okay. Last thing, Pete, got a couple of comments in here too, just about overall team performance. So with that in mind, nothing bad to talk about with special teams again, and I feel like that's a win. Other than Amari Rogers' fumble, which he recovered, but he brought it out more tonight than he has, it seems, in practice, preseason games, and in week 1.
So what's the golden rule of what's the first rule of special teams?
Do no wrong.
Do no harm.
Do no harm.
First, do no harm. It's the physician's oath, and there was definitely no harm tonight done tonight. There was a kickoff return where I think it was 22 he kept the outside leverage. John Charles kept the outside leverage really, and so Levitt ended up making the tackle, but John Charles made the play, and I just thought as soon as that play happened, I thought, well, Bisaccia is going to be really happy to see that in the film room tomorrow.
Right. It's much easier to review film when you win, even when you've got stuff to work on, and even when you got a tough opponent to prepare for. But always happier and easier to do it for the Packers when you are doing it with a win. We will continue to have full wrap-up coverage for you on PackersNews.com. Pete has some exciting stuff coming for you tomorrow and Tuesday morning as well, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned, like I said, to PackersNews.com for full wrap-up coverage of the Packers win over the Bears.